can hear me well and see my screen? Okay, good. So this is the 10th day of the DevOps training, and before starting today's session, let's have a small recap of last day's topic. Okay, so last day we saw about Puppet. We saw about the Puppet configuration file. Then we saw about the Puppet folder structure, then resources, then resource dependency manifest, then various like we saw an Apache server like with to serve our default HTML and all. So, any doubt in the topics that we covered last day? Anyone? Did you all try out those topics? Were you able to create a web server using Puppet? Like configure? Any doubt in the topics that we covered last day? Can all of you please confirm that you guys can hear me well and see my screen once again? Okay, good. So, are there no doubts on Puppet or any other session? If there are no doubts, then we'll start with today's session. Okay, Virendra is saying tried Puppet but not able to create the certificate from Node. Virendra has mailed his doubt. Okay, Virendra, what I'll do is I'll check and get back to you. Okay, I didn't saw your email. Let me check once again and I'll get back to you. Okay, so anyone else any other doubt? Okay, so it looks like there are no doubts. So let's proceed with today's session. Today we'll be learning about a tool called Jenkins. Some of you may have worked with Jenkins. Some of you may be familiar with Jenkins, but for the sake of others, those who don't know, we'll be covering the tool called Jenkins. Okay. Now, before entering into Jenkins, you should understand what continuous integration is. Like continuous integration is an automated process. Okay, it is done in order to integrate various codes from different potential sources in order to build it or test it. Okay, the codes are often required to be integrated into the form of a shared repository by the developers. So developers pushes the software to a repository, then operations builds and deploys the application to one or many environments like testing or staging. Then QA team performs the performance test and releases it to the production use. So this is the common flow, right? So the automation of this flow is what is called continuous integration is. So as soon as the developer pushes the software to a repository, you can automatically, like the operate team can automatically automate the process of creating the build and deploying the application to say testing server. And as soon as that is done, a notification can be sent to the testing team, and the QA team can perform the performance tests and other tests, and once they are okay with it, they can release it to production use. So this process, automation of this process is called continuous integration. Okay, so most of these tasks can be automated, like can automate most of the repetitive tasks, and this facilitates continuous integration, and this is where Jenkins comes into play. So Jenkins is a continuous integration tool, but like most of you will think when you think about Jenkins, you may think about scheduler, but that is not the only purpose of Jenkins. Like Jenkins can be used to schedule jobs, of course that is possible, but apart from that you will be able to sequence or trigger process, then all those pipelining, all those things you will be able to do with the help of Jenkins. This much more than a scheduler. You can sequence or trigger the process, and you can pipeline the process. All those things you will be able to do with the help of Jenkins. Okay, so Jenkins is like we are able to use Jenkins because most of the build and release steps are repetitive. So you won't need human intervention every time in these things. That is the reason why we can use a tool like Jenkins instead of manually doing it every time. Okay. Now as I mentioned, I mentioned something called build pipeline. So we'll see what are the components of build pipeline. Okay, so build pipeline consists of unit test, then acceptance test, packaging, reporting, deployment, the notification and alerts. So a build pipeline will be will contain the components that are used throughout the creation of a build, throughout the process of creation of a build. So first what it will do is once the developer pushes the code to the repo, what it will do is it will do the unit test to check the syntax and code arrays and all. Then after that it will do the acceptance testing to ensure that it is in sync with the business scenario. Then after once the acceptance test is complete, it will be packaged. Package means it will be converting into build or deployable application or artifacts. Okay, so packaging will happen, and after that it will be reporting, like if there is any error happening during packaging, or if there is any other issue, then that will be reported back, or successful creation of the package. Then once the package is ready and reporting is done, it is ready for deployment, where the actual package will be deployed to the server. It can be testing server or staging server or production server. And once deployment is complete, the notification or alerts can go to corresponding email, corresponding developers, or say emails or managers, saying that okay, deployment is done and this is the current status of the servers. So, okay, so these are the components that are there in build pipeline. Okay, so Jenkins is not the only continuous integration tool. There are tools like TeamCity, Bamboo, then Travis CA, but Jenkins is the most popular continuous integration tool out there. Okay, so we'll be seeing Jenkins in this session. Okay, so now we'll understand how Jenkins works. Okay, so everything starts with developers. So developer, like multiple developers will be pushing their code to a common source control system. This is a code repository. So once that code is pushed, that the source control server can, or the Jenkins server, which is constantly monitoring that source control server, will know that okay, there is a change, and what it will do is it will fetch the change, then build the code, test the code, then it will report fail or success response. It will report back to the thing, and once it is success, if the process of this, the test is success, then it will go to the continuous integration server, and the success or failure will be notified back to the developers. So if it is success, then it can be deployed. So based on what you have configured, it will do like that. Okay, and the report will be notified, or the notification or alerts will be sent back to the developer saying that okay, if there is an error, okay developer, so there is an error in the last push that you did, or the last commit that you did, so please check and fix those errors so that we can continue with the process. Okay, so this is the overall flow in which how a Jenkins workflow works. Okay, so Jenkins is an open source automation server written in Java. Okay, so Jenkins is written in Java, and Jenkins helps to automate the non-human part of software development process with continuous integration and facilitates technical aspects of continuous delivery. Okay, Rajita wants me to repeat the flow again. Okay, so Rajita, first the developers will be writing the code. They'll be coding, and once the code is complete, what they'll do is they'll commit the code to a source control system like Git or a repository. Okay, so as soon as that commit is made, the Jenkins server will collect the changes, collect the latest code from the server, or pull the latest code from the server, build the package, or build the system, or build the artifact. Then that particular build will be tested, and based on the test or fail, like based on the failure or success, based on the test, it will report back to the developer. Like developer will be notified saying that okay, your last commit is a success or failure. If it is failure, then it will show them the error as well, so that they will be able to make the change. It will be like you'll have to provision it. So you can provision such a way that if there is an error, you can send email to the developers saying that okay, there is an error in this one. So this is the overall flow. Is this clear, Rizda? Okay. So now So as I mentioned, Jenkins is an open source automation server written in Java. Then Jenkins helps to automate the non-human part of software development process. So everything that is as I mentioned, we'll only be able to automate the non-human parts, right? Like if something requires human intervention, then you won't be able to automate it without the help of human being. Okay, so uh, Jenkins will help automate the non-human part of software development process with continuous integration and facilities technical aspects of continuous delivery. Like even though there can be phases where the deployment can be automated, or there can be scenarios where the deployment should be after the testing based on manual intervention, but that's up to the scenario that you use it. Okay, so it is a server-based system that runs in servlet containers such as Apache Tomcat. Since it is written in Java, it requires servlet containers such as Apache Tomcat for it to run. It supports version control tools including Acura, CSV, Subversion, Git, Merkle. So most of the version control systems it will work, and it can execute Apache and Maven SVT based project as well as arbitrary shell script and Windows bash command. So what this means is, like, apart from the support that it provides for version controls tool, like common version control tools, what it will do is you'll be able to integrate it with the Apache tools, or sorry, Apache and or Maven tools, or SBT means symbol build tool or Scala build tool for Java. This is specifically Java. But apart from this, another important thing is you will be able to execute your own shell scripts or your own Windows bash commands using Jenkins. So you'll be able to execute Maven commands, you'll be able to execute AND commands, and apart from that, you'll be able to execute your own custom bash scripts. Okay, so even though Jenkins is written in Java, it is not specific for Java applications. Okay, so you will be able to deploy or integrate Jenkins with your, say, Node.js application or PHP application. It can be any application. Only thing is, Jenkins is written. Jenkins is a software written in Java. Okay. So what I want you to focus on is how to work with Jenkins without tools or plugins, so that you know how it actually works. Okay. So we will be seeing how it is done. Now we are going to see how Jenkins fit into your work. Okay. So as I mentioned, the flow, everything starts with developer. Developer will be working his or her machine. Then they'll push or commit the code to the repository, which is a source control system. And once the commit is complete, at that time Jenkins will grab the latest code. It will pull the latest code from the source control repository. Then it will build the code and create the build artifact. So build artifact is nothing but deployable package application. Okay, so it is a package which can be deployed. So it will build the artifacts. The artifacts can be of extension like exe.exe, or website can be an app, or it can be a war, or it can be a jar file. It can be any type of it can be any type of artifact. It will differ based on the application which you are applying Jenkins to. So if you are applying using Jenkins for your Java application, then it will be, the artifact will be jar or var file. But if it is, say, a Windows application, then it will be exe, like that. Okay, so once this artifact is built, what it will do is it will run tests. So it will use like a unit or MS test or Gradle or JSON to run tests. So it will actually test the artifact. It will actually test the built artifact, and then once the test is complete, and if it is success, then it is the artifact is deployed to the server. So you can specify which server to deploy to, and it can be you can trigger the deployment of that particular artifact to the server. So this section is called post build step. So after building, that is post build, the steps that you do after the build. Okay, so once the deployment is complete, it will be reported back to the developer or manager, or how you configure it will report back. Okay, so this is how a typical Jenkins works in your in general scenario. So like the developer will be the one who is actually developing the code. They'll be pushing their changes to source control repository or committing their changes to the source control system, and Jenkins will pull the latest code from the source control system and build an artifact. Artifact can depend based on the type of project that you are using or the language that your application uses. Then once the artifact is built, that particular artifact is tested so that to ensure that there are no errors. So once it is tested and if the test is success, then it will be deployed to the server. So is this clear to all of you? Any doubt till this point? Okay. So now build life cycle. So a build life cycle is the process of building and distributing a particular artifact or project. Okay, so build life cycle is a process of building and distributing. Like what are the steps that are involved in the process of building and distributing a particular artifact or project? Okay, so there are various phases in build life cycle. Okay, so first one is validate. Like this is the phase where the project is validated. Like the project is ensured that like it is saying like what they are going to do, and like whether every point is done or every goal is met. All those things will come in this validate section. So Pramod is asking, are we going to actually do connectivity between source control and Jenkins in this session? Pramod, actually we won't be doing that, but I'll show you how to do that. But I won't be showing you that one. But I'll show you how it can be done. When we go through that Jenkins session, I'll show you how it can be done. Okay, because it's pretty straightforward. You just need to give the URL. I'll show you how it is done. Okay, but not practical. Like we'll be doing a different practical with the local machine, but I'll show you how it can be done, like how to link the source control as well. Okay, so as I mentioned, the first phase is the validation phase where the project will be validated. The second phase in build lifecycle is the compile phase where it compiles the source code of the project. Then third is the test phase where the compiled source code is tested using suitable unit test framework. Then after testing, it goes to the package phase. Like this is where the artifacts will be created. The built artifacts will be created in this phase. Like it will take the compiled code and package it in a distributable format. Now this packaging, like you don't need to worry about how these are actually done. Okay, so the developer will tell you the commands needed for each phase, and you'll be concerned with automating the execution of the commands. That's DevOps professional. You will be concerned with automating the execution of the commands and giving appropriate feedback through agreed channel. So you don't have to worry about like okay, how will I know what is the command to package the application, if it is Java application or if it is PHP application or if it is .NET application, how to do that, because I'm not a developer. So no need to worry about that, because your developer will give you the comments. The only the concern that you have to keep in mind, like, or what you have to be concerned about is how to automate those commands to automate the whole build or build deployment flow. Okay, now as I mentioned, this packaging is a section where or phase where the compile code will be packaged in distributable format, which is called build artifact. Then after the package phase, it will be verified where the integration tests are run, like whether the current update or current version is will break the whole system, or is it when you integrate that particular system to particular change or particular update to the existing version, is something breaking. All those things will happen in this phase. The next is install. So this is the phase where installing the package into the local repository, like it may be for dependency, or so those like if there is any dependency, then that will be installed. All those things will happen in this particular phase. And finally the deploy phase, where the final package or final distributable format will be copied to the remote repository for sharing with others. Okay, now Virendra is asking, Git and Jenkins work together as in as in version control works with continuous integration tool. Virendra, yes, Git and Jenkins, like version control tool and Jenkins can work together to automate. Like you can trigger the start of Jenkins build whenever you commit a change to your Git repository. So that is how you will be using Git or version control system and Jenkins together, so that you can automate, like the process can trigger based on the commit. Okay, so Pramod is asking, are we going to learn automatic build process? Yes, Pramod. Actually, we'll be using one example Java project, and we'll see how to automate the process of building and deploying that Java application. That is what we'll be seeing in this session. Okay. Now, Virendra is asking, so developers should have the knowledge of both Git and Jenkins-like tools. Virendra, actually integrating Git with Jenkins is using selecting one radio button and giving the URL. It is as simple as that. So, but as I mentioned, like as DevOps professional, you should have some understanding of some version control system and continuous integration tool. So that is why we showed you, like I taught you about Jenkins. We had a session about Git, so that you will have an understanding about the version control system. And now we are talking about Jenkins. So these tools that I am taking during this session, all these tools will be very useful for you. This will give an idea of how DevOps works, and now by the end of this course you will have an understanding of each and every tool, or most of the commonly used tools in DevOps you will have an understanding about. And that will be enough for you to start your journey. So once you start, you can go deep into all these technologies. Okay, but if you have knowledge of Git and Jenkins, if you are using Git and Jenkins, then that will definitely help. So as DevOps professional, I would suggest you should have an understanding, or you should have some expertise in at least one of the version control tool, one of the configuration management tool, one of the continuous integration tool, like that. That is why we are taking the tools in different sections. Like we saw a tool in version control system. We saw a set of tools in continuous integration. Then we saw about we are seeing about continuous integration, all those things. Okay, now we'll see about the Jenkins architecture. Okay, so a standalone Jenkins instance can grow fairly quickly into a disk-munching CPU eating monster. Like if it is a simple if your application is simple, then there won't be an issue. But if your application is very big and it is very complex, then if you're using a standalone Jenkins instance, it can be very CPU intensive. So it can really affect the whole system. So to prevent this from happening, what we can do is we can scale Jenkins by implementing a slave node, like master slave architecture. Okay, so what this helps is, like Jenkins, we can have a master which will have the UI where you will be interacting, and you can have multiple nodes. You can have multiple slave nodes which can be used to offload the responsibilities of master Jenkins. Like instead of executing the actual execution of task, or actual execution of the job will be handled by these slave nodes. So as I mentioned, this is only used for highly complex applications. For simple application, you just need one Jenkins system. But if you are using, say, highly complex application which is very resource intensive, at that time, instead of making the Jenkins master do all the jobs, what you can do is you can have different nodes which will be able to execute different jobs. Okay, so in order to clarify this, so a Jenkins slave node is simply a device configured to act as an automation executor on behalf of the master. So master is the one which will control the whole thing, but in order to execute, master is using the help of the node that you are adding. Okay, so the master will continue to perform basic operations and serve the user interface, while the slaves do the heavy lifting. Okay, so this distributed computing model will allow the Jenkins master to remain responsive to the usage while offloading automation execution to the connected slaves. So it is like sharing the workload. Instead of doing everything on its own, the Jenkins master will master can share the responsibility, like actual execution of the job can be done by the nodes. Okay, so I'll explain it once again. So in the master slave architecture, like this is not a must, like normally, like most of the cases you will only be having a master architecture, you will only be having one node which will be the master. But on complex or high end applications, you will be using master slave architecture, where you will have a Jenkins master which will have the actual UI, user interface of the Jenkins. And this is the server which you will be interacting. As DevOps professional, you will be interacting with this Jenkins master, and via TCP connection, this Jenkins master will be communicating with this nodes that you add. Okay, so the use of this node is to offload the workload. Like in Jenkins master, you will be configuring different jobs. Okay, so you'll be configuring, okay, first they build job and then deploy job or test job. Different jobs will be configuring in Jenkins master, and each job can be executed by different nodes. Like if you have say two nodes, then one node can do the build process, and another node can do the test process and all. So instead of the Jenkins master doing all those things on its own, what it will do is it will offload the work to the nodes that they have assigned, like nodes that are assigned linked to that particular master. That is the purpose of having a master slave architecture in Jenkins. Is it clear, Pramod? Okay, so Virendra is saying my voice is breaking. So can all of you hear me? How would others others hear me well, or my sound is breaking? I think he's saying clearly. So okay, from sorry, Virendra, it looks like others are able to hear me. So please check your end of the connection. Okay. So this is the master slave architecture of Jenkins. Now the common architecture of Jenkins will have different phases. Like you will have one UI, as I mentioned, you will have one user interface where you will be interacting with Jenkins, and that will be the web architecture, and it will have the view, and it will be communicating the web architecture. Like you will be interacting with button, and on those button actions and all, it will be communicating with the inner layer with the help of REST API calls. Okay, so with like behind your UI you will have your project artifacts, which is the builds, then security percent. This will be the data that will be stored, like percents of data, then the build that to be deployed. All those things will come under this section. It is for storing the data. Then it will also have the model objects like projects, builder, notifier. All those plugins or model objects will come here. Then update center is where you can use this update center for installing plugins or updating plugins or those kind of things. So in Jenkins you can have different plugins. So if you want to say integrate some other thing, then you just need to install that plugin and you will be able to use that plugin. Okay, so Jenkins will use a plugin system, and those are the things that are uh, sitting behind your graphical user interface. And behind that you will have your execution infrastructure, which will be doing the actual job of scheduling the tasks and remoting or pipelining. Those things will happen behind this particular section, or this but behind this modeler. So this is the general architecture of Jenkins. So Shreyas is asking what is REST API. Okay, Shreyas, REST API is just the protocol of communication. So it uses API calls. Like if you use say one URL with some parameters, then it can be used to do some job. It can be used to trigger a particular job. So that is the main. That is the bare minimum of what REST API is. Okay. Now installing and obtaining Jenkins. Okay, so if you go to this URL, you will see about the how to install Jenkins and all. So, but if you are using Debian or Ubuntu system, then these are the commands that you have to execute to install Jenkins. If you are using Mac operating system, then you just need to use brew to install Jenkins. But if you are using Docker, then you can execute Docker command like this. And Windows also has installer package using which you can directly install it. So, but since we are looking for everything that can be used by anyone else, we'll be using Docker. So we'll use Docker so that we can speed up the process and focus on how Jenkins works. Okay, so now we are going to see some practicals. Okay, so before we start, I would like to mention, like, remember to map a host folder for pestins. Okay, so we'll see that. Like, these are the commands that we'll be executing today. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a Jenkins container. Okay, so this is the command that I'm going to use, the Jenkins container. So I hope most of you all are now know about Docker and will be able to decipher what this particular command does. But I'll explain it once again. Like, I'll explain this command. So you're running this as daemon, then you're passing one environment variable which is Jenkins user, and here we are passing id minus u. Id minus u means like the current user. So if I execute like, sorry, if I execute like who am I, you'll get the current username, right? This is my local machine or host machine. So this particular user will be sent, or will be the Jenkins, will be used as a Jenkins user. So if I use say id minus u, you will get the user id. Okay, so that is the use of this particular command. So this will execute this command, the output will be passed as the Jenkins user. So this environment variable will be set inside the container. And minus minus rm we are using to remove the container. Once you stop the container, then we are porting maps. So Jenkins uses two ports like 8080 and 50,000. This is for TCP AP communication. Then this we are specifying port mapping for those two ports. Then we are using volume mapping, where we will create, we have one Jenkins home folder, or we'll create a new Jenkins home folder, and that particular folder will be mapped as for Jenkins home. Then apart from that, we are doing one more mapping, which is Docker socket, like the host machines Docker socket. We are mapping to the Jenkins Docker socket. We'll come to that later, like why we will need that. Then we are specifying a name for the container, and finally we are using the image. So here we are not using the default Jenkins image. Like I mentioned, this is the default Jenkins image, or the official Docker Jenkins image, but we are not using that because the official Jenkins Docker image doesn't have the Docker client. Okay, but since we are looking to integrate Jenkins with Docker, we'll need a Docker client. So that is the reason why we are using this particular image. Okay, now why we'll come to why we need this mapping. So we all saw about the Docker architecture, right? So what are the components that are there in Docker architecture? Can anyone tell me? Can anyone tell me what are the components that are there in Docker architecture? Anyone? Shreyas is saying Docker Hub. Prashant is saying Docker Host. Sadish is saying hardware guest OS. Okay. Shreyas is saying Ahai. I think Shreyas meant Ohai, but Ohai is in Chef. Shreyas, not Docker. Sadish is saying Docker. Prashant is saying Docker daemon. Okay, so let me tell you once again, like Docker in Docker architecture, you have three components like Docker client, Docker daemon, and the Docker repository or the Docker repo. Oh, okay. So these are three components that you had with Docker. Okay. So now when I taught you about the Docker daemon, I have mentioned that the Docker daemon can be either in the host machine, or it can be from anywhere else, or it can be from outside world. You can just give the you'll be able to connect your Docker client with another Docker host also from another machine. I mentioned that, right? So that is the use of using this one. So now what you are doing is we are creating a Docker container, and inside the Docker container you will have the Docker client installed. That is why we are using this particular image, and that client will use, like, we want that client to use the Docker host as my host Docker, or the Docker daemon as that of my host machine. That is why I am mapping the Docker socket, which is the Docker which is used for the Docker daemon. The Docker daemon of the host machine I am mapping inside the Docker container. Okay, so I'll show you with an example so that it will be clear to you. So I have one Jenkins home folder in this one. So what I'll do is I'll create a new directory, say test Jenkins. Okay, I'm entering into this one. So as you can see, this particular directory is empty. Now here we are mapping one Jenkins home folder, right? So either I can create a folder, or if the folder is not there, then Docker will automatically create. So I'm going to directly execute this one. Okay, so now my container is running. So if you do Docker PS, you can see two containers running. So this one I already created. This is the one that we created just now. Like this is the name, like my Jenkins 2. So this is the container that we just now created. Okay, so now you can see that like this Docker PS command I executed in my local machine, right? So now what I'll do is I'll go to my folder, and now Jenkins is running on my machine, or Jenkins is running inside this container, and this is a URL for you to browse. Okay, so I'll browse this URL 8126. Okay, so it will take some time for Jenkins to set up everything. So you'll see that like Jenkins is preparing. Okay, so first time when you start your Jenkins server, you'll get one message like this: unlock Jenkins. Okay, so for that, in order to unlock Jenkins, you will need something called initial admin password. Okay, now we are going to see how to get that. Okay, so before that, like I mentioned, this is my local machine, right? When inside my local machine, when I executed Docker PS, you can see two containers running. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to enter inside the container, inside my new Jenkins container, like my Jenkins 2 and bash. Okay, so now I am inside my Jenkins container. So as I saying, before installing you gave is it shows Jenkins home and it's something like you installed already. Yes, there is a, see, I have one Jenkins container already running, right? So that is for that particular Jenkins. That's why I created a new directory called test Jenkins, and inside that directory I am creating this, because there are some steps which will take some time to set up. In order to save that time, what I have done is I have created that step. I have executed those steps already in a separate instance, so separate container, and that I'll show you for my future execution. So this one I want to show you how the initial setup is done. Okay, so now I am inside my new Jenkins container. Now can anyone tell me what will happen if I execute Docker PS inside my container? Can anyone tell me what will happen? Can anyone guess? Can you guess what will happen if I execute Docker PS inside my container now? Anyone? Any guess? No one? Okay. So let me tell you. See, now if I execute Docker PS inside the container, what you'll get is you'll get the same output. See, you are getting the same output as that of executing the Docker PS command inside my host machine, because now the Docker client inside my container, which is this my Jenkins 2, inside this container, the Docker client is using the same daemon as that of my host machine, because I have mapped this Docker sock file. See the use of mapping this particular Docker sock, so that the container, the Docker client inside the container is using the same Docker daemon as that of my host machine. Is this clear? Is the purpose of mapping this Docker sock is clear now? Any doubt? No, Pramod is asking, here we are using Docker commands to use Jenkins. We can directly work on Linux server if Jenkins is installed using Apache. Yes, Pramod. You'll be able to do that as well. Okay, so now I am showing Docker because it is very easy to use Docker. It will be fast, and I can show you how Jenkins works. Okay, so is the purpose of mapping this Docker so clear to all of you? Is it clear? Anyone? Any doubt? Okay, is asking inside container Docker command work for you? Will it work for Ubuntu image container? Because I face error like Docker command not found. No, Reza, see now this particular image we created from this particular container we created from this image. So this image already has Docker client, but it doesn't have Docker daemon. So what we have done is we have mapped our host machine's Docker daemon to that of the Docker client inside the container. So now this particular container is using the same Docker daemon as my host machine. Okay. Okay. Now Pramod is asking with Docker commands. It is complicated as I don't have hands-on Dockers. Pramod, see that's the reason why we took Docker for 2 sessions. So that's the reason why I have been telling you, right? You should try out Docker. You should try out those examples that I have shown. You should be familiar with Docker because as DevOps professional, that is one of the most important tools that you will be working with. So you should have experience with Docker. You should try out the commands that I tell you. Okay, because say now I am using a Mac. If I use say examples in my Mac, then those who are using Windows or Linux machines, they'll face difficulty to execute the same command. So since I am using Docker, anyone will be able to use the same command and get the same result. Okay, now Virendra wants me to explain the Docker run command once again. Okay, so Virendra, here the Docker run minus DTA means this in daemon mode, it should run in daemon mode, then IT for interactive terminal. Since it is in daemon mode, you are not getting that. That is why I'm using exec to enter inside the container. Okay, now this is for environment. Here we are setting the environment variable where you are setting the current user as the Jenkins user. Then this is to remove the container once you exit from the container. Then you are using port mapping, then volume mapping for Jenkins home. This is for persistence, data persistence, and also we are mapping the Docker daemon. Okay, and we are using this particular image for creating that particular Docker container. Okay, this is clear. Okay, good. Now, now as I mentioned, when we browse this particular installation, particular Jenkins server, it is asking for some on initial admin password, right? So now let's see how to get this one. Okay, so inside your Jenkins container, there is one folder called /var Jenkins home secrets. So actually Jenkins will tell you the path. See, var Jenkins home secret. There is something called there is a folder like this one. If you do that, there will be something called initial admin password. See this file. So this is the file which will have your password. So what you can do is you can cat say var Jenkins home say secret / initial admin password. Sorry, secrets / initial admin password, and you will get the admin password secret. Okay, so you'll be able to now able to use the password. So this is the password you have to use to unlock your Jenkins installation. Okay, so if you press execute that one, you'll be taken to the Jenkins installation or Jenkins setup section. Okay, so that is admin password. So there are multiple ways of getting this admin password. So one way is like this. You can enter the machine and get the password from this particular path. Another way is to, like, if you do docker logs my-jenkins 2, if you get the logs in the docker logs, you will see one section like this. See, Jenkins setup is setup is required, then admin uses password. So this is a password that is generated. So you can either copy the password from here, or you can enter inside the container and get the thing. Okay, so without this initial admin password, you won't be able to enter into your Jenkins server initially. This is clear. Now it will take you to a page like this. So here you will be able to customize, like it will be asked you to, it will ask you to install some plugins. So what you can do is you can select this option, like install set plugins. It will install some one set, like around say 10 or 12 plugins it will install. So those will include Git plugin and all those basic plugins that are required. It will automatically install. So you can proceed with this install suggested plugins. Or but if you want to select the plugins that you want to install, then you can select this option to select what are the plugins that you want inside your Jenkins server. Now Prashant is asking, is this one-time activity or every time it will ask for password? Prashant, actually this is an one-time activity. So once you install, once you complete the installation plugin, what it will do is it will ask for you to create an admin user. So after creating admin user, it won't ask you for the initial admin password. Okay. Okay, good. So as I mentioned, you can click this one, but when you click this one, it will install a set of plugins, predefined plugins, and it will take some time for the plugin to be installed. That is the reason why I have one particular system, particular container, which where I have already completed that step. So I have already installed the plugins. Now so there is a container here. That is a container that I am running on. This my Jenkins is the container. So when I executed Docker PS, you saw two containers, right? Like my Jenkins 2 and my Jenkins. So my Jenkins is the one that I have already installed the plugins of. Okay. So now from now on, I'll be using this particular copy. So I won't be needing this one. So when you create initially, you will be executing this, and you will click this section, and after completing the installation, you will be taken to the admin user creation section. Okay. So like since I waited for some time, it is asking for the initial admin password, so I can get the admin password from my container. So I am inside my Jenkins container, and this is the initial admin password for that particular container. I'm going to paste it. Sorry, I'm going to paste it and click continue. And since plugins are already installed, I am taken to create first admin user section. Okay. So this is the path that I have. Like I'll exit from this one, then cd dot dot. So this is the path where I have my Jenkins. So this is the path. Like in this, you can see the Jenkins home folder, right? So this is the Jenkins home folder in my particular original container. So now what I'll do is I'll show you this. Sorry, ls minus l Jenkins home. See inside here you'll see the plugins folder, right? So here slash plugins. If you see, you will have a set of plugins. So this is the folder that you will get after installing those plugins. So before initially when you do, like if I do say this test Jenkins, so ls minus l test Jenkins slash Jenkins home slash underscore plugins. So in this folder, you can see that plugins folder is empty. Since I have installed that plugins, you can see the plugins folder in my original container is filled with some plugins. Okay. Now one more thing, like if you do say du say minus sh Jenkins home, this is to get the current size of that particular folder, and you can see that 2.207 MB and all. So initially your Jenkins installation, before installing plugins, it will be a small size. So after the plugins are installed, it will be around this size. So you can see whether this is this size to ensure that the plugins are installed. Another thing that you can do is you can execute Docker stats, which will show you the current working, like what is the memory usage, what is the CPU utilization, and all those things of the current running containers. Okay, so let me remove the my Jenkins 2 container because I won't be needing that. Remove minus f this one. Okay, so now if I do Docker ps, I'll have only Docker ps, I'll have only one Jenkins running. Okay, now Pravansh is asking, in terminal for executing commands like either chef or docker or puppet, do we need to perform all these in root? That is after typing sudo su. Now Pravansh, actually that will depend on the command. Like most of the time when you are executing a Docker container, the command you'll be entering as root user only. so you may not be required to execute sudo, use the sudo command, but if you are getting error, you can of course use sudo. But generally inside Docker, you will be entering as root user. Like when you have the run command and all inside the Docker file, all those commands will be executed as root user. Okay. Now this is the current thing. So first thing that you have to do is to create users. Okay, so now I am going to create an admin user. So I'll use the name as Abhijit. Then password I'll give as say AP123. Then I have to confirm the password 123. Then full name I'll give as a Abhijit VG. Then email I'll use as vg@test.com. Okay, so now what I'll do is I'll click this save and finish. So now your Jenkins is ready, your Jenkins server is ready. I can just click start using Jenkins, and now your Jenkins server is ready and you are inside your Jenkins server. Okay, so this is the initial setup that you have to do whenever you set up your Jenkins server first. You will have to use the initial admin password to unlock your Jenkins UI, and after that you have to install the plugins. And once you complete installation of that plugin, you will be asked to create an admin user. And once that admin user creation is complete, you will be taken to the Jenkins server. Okay, from now on you will be working inside this particular section. Okay, so here the most important section is this manage Jenkins, and this section will have all the things that are required to manage your Jenkins installation. Okay, so you are getting this this thing because there are updates available for my particular Jenkins and plugins, so please ignore that. Okay, here if you go to global security, like if you want to do the security for your system, then you can go to configure global security, and you will have all the options that you have. Like you will be able to specify the authorization, like what the user can do. Like you will be able to specify what each user can do as well. Then you can specify the port and fix all those security related items. You will be able to do it from here. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going back and I'm going to create user. So in order to create new user, I'm going to now this is the admin user, right? So we won't be giving admin permission to all the users. Like there may be some users which can do who can do some items, but there can be some which can do some items, but you won't be giving admin privilege to all the users. So what you have to do is you have to create a new user. So that is what we are going to see now. So I'm going to create a new user. So in order to create new user, what you have to do is first you have to go to manage Jenkins, and inside that you will see this manage user section. So manage users you can click, and here you will see the list of users that you have created. You will also see the admin user that you created, and you can use this create user to create an user. So that is what I'm going to do now. I'm going to create a user. So I'll give the username as a user1. Then a password I'll use as a user123. I'll confirm the password. Then full name I'll give as a user1. Then email address I'll use as a user1@test.com. Okay, so now I just need to click this create user to create new user. So now you can see that I have two users. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to log out of my admin user and log in as the new user that I created. So I'm going to log in as user1, user123. And as you can see, by default, the new user that as new user that you create, by default they'll have all the permissions. Like they'll have permission to manage Jenkins and all those sections they have. Like they'll be like an admin. Okay, but we don't want that to happen, right? So now what you have to do is you have to add permissions to your user. So okay, so before that let me log in as uh, my admin user, and Now Pramod is asking how to get here, like create user. Pramod, in order to go to create user, what you have to do is you have to go to manage Jenkins, and inside the manage Jenkins you will see manage user section, and you can click that on and you will create this. You will see the create user section here, create user button here. Is it clear, Pramod? Okay. Now as I mentioned, we are going to change permissions for the user. So for that, what you have to do is you have to go to manage Jenkins and go to configure global security, and this is the place where we are going to set the permissions. Okay, so first thing that you have to do is to enable metrics based security. So if when you use metric based security, you'll be able to select, like specify certain actions for certain users and all. Okay, now I have just enabled this one, enable metrics based security. Now I am just going to save this one. Okay, now what I am going to do is I am going to log out of this particular admin user. Okay, now I am going to log in. Okay, as you can see, I am able to see the details, and I have the admin privilege. Now if you go to the user one, you can see that access denied message is coming because you have enabled access based security. So once you enable access based security, what it will do is it will deny all access. By default it will deny all access. Without matrix based security, what it did, it by default it allowed all access. Okay, so now next thing what you have to do is you want the user to have some privileges, right? So instead of having the admin privilege, what you need is you want your user to have some privileges, like seeing the thing and all. So what you have to do is you have to log into the admin again. Okay, you have to go to manage Jenkins, and here you have to click global configure global security. And here inside user matrix based security, you can see that the user, the ApplePG user, is having the administrator privilege, overall administrator privilege. That is the reason why this particular user has all the privileges, but you don't see the listing for the user, right? That is the reason why that user access is denied. So now what you have to do is you have to you have to add user, like you have to add a new user. So you have to specify the user one you have to specify here, and you have to click add. Okay, now what you have done is you have added your new user, which is user one, and now what it will have is you haven't specified anything, like you haven't specified what are the permissions that can be there for that particular user. So now without doing anything, if you save and exit, then the same will happen, like the any access will be denied for that user. So what you are going to do is you are going to give read privilege, overall read privilege you are going to give for that particular user. And other thing, like I can give permission for that user to create jobs. So those manage jobs, all those permission I can give like this. And if you want to give run permission for that particular user, you can give like this. So like this you will be able to specify what are things that each user can do. Okay, so after doing that you can click the save, and this particular thing is saved. Okay, now what I am going to do is I am going to log out, and now I'm going to log in as user one. Earlier we saw that user 123. Earlier we saw that it was giving access denied, but now you can see that particular user can see the items, but there is no manage Jenkins section here because this user is not an admin. That is the reason why this user doesn't have admin privileges. That is the reason why they can't create manage Jenkins section is not there, because that is only for admin. But you will be able to create new item and all. But they are able to see the jobs and create jobs and all they can do. Okay, now Pravanshu is asking, can user one which you created change its own password by its own? Pravanshu, what do you mean by user one like change its own password? Can you elaborate on that? And Riza is asking, creation of user is case sensitive. Riza, actually Now let me log in as the admin user. Okay, so when you go to this manage Jenkins and configure global security, here when you add the user, you'll be using the username. Like since I use the user one as a username with capital U, you'll be using that one. So as far as possible, try to use case sensitive systems. Like if you use small u, you try to use small u itself. Okay, so Pravansh is asking, I'm in login password. Login password. Uh, I'm not sure I understand that question. Okay, let me see. Pravansh is saying user and login password if it expires. Actually, Pravansh, there is no expiry for login password, but now if you go here, uh, like if you go to this manage user, and if you go to this particular settings of that user, see, you'll be able to see the email, and here you'll be able to change the password. Like as admin, if you are an admin, then you'll be able to change the password for that particular user. So if the particular user, like user one, doesn't have administrative privilege, then they won't be able to make changes to that particular user as well, because that that particular option or that particular privilege is only there for admin. So that user, like I hope I answered your question. Like user one, like here, see, you can only add description. Like you won't be able to change anything. Only thing is there is some credentials here, but that is for other credentials. Like there is not password. Like you won't be able to change the password and all. Like only admin can change the password. So you'll have to ask the admin to change the password for you. Okay. Now Virendra is asking, Pravanshi wants to know if any user can change his or her password by their own. Oh yes, Virendra, I understand that. Thanks for that explanation. Okay, so now let's log in as the admin user. Okay, now I'll be using this user for my subsequent comments. Okay, so now is this clear? Admin based, sorry, metrics based security, is this clear to all of you? Okay, so this one we saw, then we saw how to get the initial admin password, then Jenkins home we saw, then Jenkins initial password we saw. Then another important use of having that mapping Jenkins home folder is that, like as I mentioned, Jenkins home help with persistence. Like now, this particular, like if I do say less minus L Jenkins home slash user Jenkins home, we'll see one usage folder. Usage, you can see the new usage that I created here. So now what it will do is, like if if you use this same Jenkins home folder for another Jenkins installation, then if you are using the same folder, then all these things, including the user, then jobs and the plugins that are installed inside this particular installation, all these things will be coming to your new Jenkins installation as well. Or your new Jenkins server will have the same content as your old Jenkins content or old Jenkins container. So if you persist, like if you copy paste this particular directory to some other system and create a new server in a new Jenkins server in that system, then you will have the same Jenkins that server that you are using now inside that system also. That is the magic of using this volume mapping with Jenkins. Okay, Virendra is asking, Jenkins has its own database of users. Yes, Virendra, it will manage its own users, but all those users will have, like inside the users folder, you'll be able to see those users. Prashant is asking, what if this user gets deleted from this path? Prashant, if the user is deleted from this path, that means the user is deleted from the Jenkins installation as well. Like I'm going to remove this one, like Jenkins home say users slash user one. Okay, actually this is a folder, so I am going to remove okay. Now if I do say ls ls minus l, then there is only one user Abhijit. Now if I go to my admin, and if I go to manage Jenkins and go to manage users, now see that delete option is not there, because now you can see something like Jenkins is missing that part, so you will lose control over that particular user. So Jenkins will have its own database, and inside that database also this user one will be there, and apart from that it will have one folder where it will store the details related to that particular user. So if you delete that particular user from this directory, that alone won't delete the user. You will have to do that separately as well. Like via the backend as well, you will have to do that. Okay. Now, but now since the user folder is not there, you won't be able to use that particular user, because all those details that are there with that particular user is not there with the current Jenkins installation. Okay, so this one we saw how to unlock this, then install Sysad plugin. When you click install Sysad plugin, you will see something called this getting started, and here it will show you the progress of plugins installation. Prashant is asking, will I get login then? No, you won't be able to log into that particular user. See, now if I use say user one, so 1 2 3, you'll be like, you'll be able to log, like, see, the user is still there in the database, but there are certain items, like if I go to say users, if you see here, you have the configuration.xml file. So the configuration file that are related to that particular user is within that particular folder. So all those configuration will not be there. So all those things that you have configured, or if you have specified something for that particular user, all those things won't be there, but the user will be there. But that is not the proper way. So as far as possible, if you want to delete a user, please don't do it via the finder or via the folder. You can do it via the admin backend. Okay, so let me proceed. Now this one we saw. So this is the screen that you will get during the plugins installation. Then you will see the log like this. We already saw this log, and in the log also you will see the initial admin password. Okay, now one more thing, what I want to show you is that now I have created the admin user, right? So now if I do to go to this particular folder, if I do this ls minus l, this particular folder, you can see that initial admin password is no longer there. You see this, like if I do say ls, this thing cannot access because there is no file directly with this particular folder. That is because as soon as you create your admin password, this file will be deleted by Jenkins, because this is a one-time thing and it is used only till the admin user is created. So once the admin user is created, all the power of Jenkins server is handed to that particular admin user. So after that, this initial admin password won't be relevant, and it will be deleted by the by Jenkins itself. Okay. Now this one we saw creating the admin user, then Jenkins, then the using post Docker post my Jenkins, you'll be able to post to Jenkins, and mapping this Jenkins home folder is you can preserve your Jenkins installation, you can preserve your jobs, you'll be able to share your Jenkins installation and all using this map Jenkins home folder. Okay, this authentication also we saw. Then please be careful, like if you remove this administration option for the admin and save, after you log out you won't have the permission for the admin anymore. So please be careful when you are using this matrix based security, because if you uncheck the administrator privilege for the admin and you don't have another admin user, then you will lose control over your Jenkins installation or Jenkins server. Okay, so these things we already saw. Now we'll see how to create jobs. Okay, so for that, what we'll go do is we'll go to the Jenkins installation. Okay, so here you can either click create new job, or you can click this new item to create the job. Okay, so I'll click this one, create new job. Okay, so now here these are the various options that are there, like these are various templates that Jenkins provide when you create a new job. It can be a freestyle project, like if you are using this particular job is for pipelining, then you can use pipeline, then folder, GitHub organization, all those things you can do. But I'll be using freestyle project where everything you will have to configure, like you have to do what everything does. There won't be anything set up for you. So I'll be using this freestyle project so that you will understand how it can be done. Okay, so I am going to use something called test job, say test DevOps job A. Okay, so I am going to use this particular name for, I am going to give this name for the job, and I'm going to select freestyle project. Okay, I'll click OK, and now this particular job is getting created. And here you can specify like this is just a test job. Here you can give the description, give any description for your job. Then here, like if you want to integrate Git, then you can specify Git here. If you want to trigger, like if you want to poll, if you want to schedule like periodic building, then you can use this section. All those things you can do. But what we'll be doing is you'll be seeing how to execute our own bash script. Okay, for that what you have to do is you have to go to build section. Inside under add build step, you will have to select execute shell. Okay, so here you will be execute your own shell script. Like I am going to do some echo, say hello world from DevOps test job. Then I'm going to write this to file, say for Jenkins underscore home slash say hello. I'm going to create a new file called hello.txt, and this should be the content using this script. Then I'm going to say execute date. I'm going to send the date like to the same file. I'm appending the file with the current date. Sorry. Okay. Now I'm also going to execute docker ps to the same file. Okay. So what I'll do is I'll do one line echo so that I'll show I'll see the difference. Like I'll give one entry like this. Okay, so this is just a sample execution of shell command. So what I want to do is when I execute this particular job, I want to create a file called hello.txt in this particular folder, like war Jenkins home, and the content of that file will be this one. First line will be this, followed by the date as the second line, then it will have the third line like this, and the output of this particular command as the fourth line. Okay, so this is what I want to I want this job to do. Okay, I'll save this job, and now if you go to this one, like now I am inside that particular job, but if you go to the dashboard, you will see the jobs here. So it will show the you will see the new job that you have created. And before executing anything, let's say war Jenkins home, and you can see there is no hello.txt inside this particular folder. So I'll do say hello.txt. You can see that particular file is not there. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to execute this job, and my aim is when the job is executed, it should create a file called hello.txt with the contents that I have mentioned. Okay, so here in order to run a build, what you can do, there are various options that you can do. You can either press this button, like you can use this button which is used to build build a particular job, like build now, or you can go inside the job and here you will see the build now button. You can either click this, or from the dashboard you can directly build. Okay, now I am going to use this build now option, and when I execute this, so build is scheduled. So now in this section you will see the build history. So now this is happening, and if you go to this console output, you will see the console output. Okay, the build is finished, and this is the console output of that particular build. Okay, so it is finished with success response. And now if I do this ls Jenkins, you can see the hello.txt file created. And if you do say cat that particular file, you will see the content. Like you will see the first line which I have given, then the current date it is adding, and the output of docker ps command also it is outputting in that particular hello.txt. So here what we have done is we have created a simple Jenkins job, and we have executed our own custom shell script. And when we executed that job, that custom shell commands got executed, and we can see the output here. Okay, this is clear. This is clear how to create a sample job in Jenkins. Okay, now one more thing I want to show you. Like if you go to this Jenkins, if you go to manage Jenkins, and there is something called manage. There is something called manage plugins. So this is the place where you will be managing your plugins. Like if you want to install a new plugin, then if you want to see the list of installed plugins, then you can click this install, and it will show you the plugins that are already installed in your current plugin installation. Then, and like these are plugins that are already installed. Then if you want to see the list of available plugins, then you can click this one. It's a huge list, so it will take time. And if I click this one, but if you want to see the list of updates available for your plugins, you can click this update section and all. So this is the place where you will be managing your plugins after the initial plugins installation. Okay, now this one, creating job we saw, then using freestyle job, how to execute your custom shell command you saw, then how to build a job we saw. Then this is one thing, like if you go to this project, if you click on this particular project, if you want to disable this particular job or project, then you can click this disable project. And after you disable, like I will disable that. And if you want to enable that project again or the job again, then you can click this enable once again. Okay, so this is how you will be able to manage your jobs. Then enabling jobs we saw. Then similarly you'll be able to delete it. So like before deleting, what I'll do is I'll show you something, like say ls -l Jenkins home / jobs. There is something called jobs folder in Jenkins home. Here you can see the when you create a new job, it will create a new folder corresponding to that job as well. Okay, now I'm going to show you how to delete. Like now you can delete the project using this option. I'm going to delete the project. Now I have deleted that particular project, and now if you do go to this job section, you can see that particular project is the particular job is no longer there. Okay, so these are the plugins. Like there are a lot of plugins that you can use. There are numerous plugins to assist deployment, like Elastic Beanstalk deployment plugins and code deploy plugins. There are a lot of plugins which you can install. You'll be able to use the manage plugin section to install your plugin. So this is like you can just search and just select the plugin you want to install and install without restart, or download now and install after restart. You can select, and you'll see pages. You'll see pages like this where the plugins will be installed. Okay, so now we'll be going to our examples on how to automate a particular command. Now, Virendra is asking, what does the number 2 signifies on Jenkins web page? See, number 2, this is the warnings. Like, what are the comments? Like, if you go to this manage Jenkins, here you can see 2 warnings, right? There are 2 warnings, like security vulnerability, like 2 versions are available, like 2 patches are available for your Jenkins. That is the warnings that, like, those 2 that is the number that is being displayed here. So if you click here, it will show you the same warnings. Okay. So before you start with the automation, before you start with the example of how to automate the process, what we'll do is we'll take a 15 minutes break. Now it's 8:20. We'll be back at 8:35. Okay. So back in 15 minutes. Hello and welcome back, everyone. So, before resetting the session, can you please confirm that you can hear me well and see my screen? Okay, good. So, till now, what we have seen is we saw how to set up your Jenkins server. What are the initial configurations that you have to do with your Jenkins server? Then we saw how to create a sample job. Now what we are going to do is we are going to see how to use Jenkins to a sample deploy a sample Java application automatically. Okay, so here I'll be showing you a sample Java application deployment. But this is not specific on Java application. It can be any other application, any type of application. I'm just using Java as an example. Okay, so first what I'll do is first I'll show you how to do this, how to do the creating the build and how to do those steps manually from your local machine, and then I'll show you how to automate using Jenkins. Okay, so first thing that I'm going to do is like this is the current folder. So first thing what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a Java application. So I'll be using a tool called Maven. So those of you who have worked with Java will know that Maven tool can be used to build, package, and test Java applications. So I'll be using the Maven tool like any other tool. I'll be using the Docker. I'll be using Docker containers to auto create this one instead of installing Maven in my local machine. Okay, so this is the command that I'm going to create. So I'm going to create a Docker container. So this container will just come create the Java sample Java application until terminate. So this is just to create the Java application. So we are not maintaining this container at all. That is the use of having containers. So the containers can just come up, do its job, and then go. It doesn't need to be there. Okay. So this is the command that I am using. So I am mapping one folder named sample Java to this particular folder inside the container. Then I am using .m2 folder. Like, see, this one for Maven, it will need some dependency. Like if this .m2 is not there, then what it will do is it will download those dependencies via the internet, and it will take lot of time. So what I am doing is I am mapping my local .m2 folder inside the root of the container, so that the Maven won't re-download all these things inside the container. Because if you don't map this, every time we execute the Docker container, it will download those .m2, the plugins or those dependencies inside that are required for Maven. It will download again and again. So in order to avoid that, I am using that, mapping the .m2 folder within the container. Okay. So this minus w is to specify the current working directory, which I am specifying as this /external, and this is the actual Maven command used to create a new Java application. This is sample Java application, and Maven MVN is used. So here this is the application name which is sample Java that we are going to create. This is a web app. Okay, so now I am going to execute. So now I executed this one. So now it is bringing up the container and it is executing the Maven command. Okay, so the name of the container is this one, Maven, and this is the command MVN, Maven command to execute. Okay, so now see, it has created the generated the sample Java application. So now if you do ls-l, you can see that sample Java folder is there, and inside sample Java, if you see, you can see our new project, which is sample Java project, which is sample Java. So if I do say tree sample Java, you can see this is the current the project that is created by Maven, and this is the current folder structure. Okay, so here this index.jsp is the one that will be displayed when you deploy this application. So let's see what is the content of that one. So cat sample Java src main, then web app index.jsp. Okay, so this is just a hello world. So this JSP just have a hello world text, and when you deploy the application and browse the page, you will only get this hello world in that screen. Okay, so now what we have done is we have created a sample Java application. Next thing in build pipeline is to build the project, right? Like build the artifact. So for that also we'll be using Docker containers. So this one I'll be showing you manually, and later on I'll show you how to automate it using Jenkins. Okay, so in order to manually do that, I'll be using Docker container. So this is the command that I'm going to use. So here also I'll be using the same Maven image, and here also I'm mapping that .m2 folder. Then I am specifying the project path as the path of my sample Java application, and this is a command then I am executing to build the package. So as I mentioned, as DevOps professional, you don't have to worry about what is the command needed, because that the developer will give you. You just need to execute that, or you just need to automate the process of execution, automate the execution of that command. Okay, so sorry, so the commands like mvn, clean package, all those commands your developers will give you. Okay, so Reza is asking, could you please upload demo commands file? Okay, Reza, what I'll do is I'll upload this particular file as well. Okay, so now as you can see, the build is complete and build is successful, and just created something called .war file, which is the artifact deployed for Java, and it is in this particular folder. So this is the name of that war file. So if you do the tree command once again, you can see the target folder is created. It was not there earlier. So when you build the thing, it will create that particular folder and all those structures, and this is the artifact that you are going to deploy. So this is in this particular location. Okay, so Now we have built the thing. Next thing is to test, but I will be avoiding skipping test here because that will depend on the tool. This is just a sample Java application, so we'll be directly going to deployment. Now we are going to see how to deploy the this particular war file, particular Java artifact is what we are going to see. Okay, for that what we are going to see is we are going to execute. Here also we are using Docker. So since we are using giving a name, first we'll ensure that particular Docker is not there, that Docker with that name is not there. Okay, the container is not there, so that is fine. Now this is the command that we are going to execute to create or deploy that particular container, sorry, particular artifact. So in order to deploy, for deploying Java application, you will need Tomcat server. So we'll be creating a Tomcat server, and inside that Tomcat server we are going to deploy this artifact. So the server will be running the background. That is why we are using -d, and that is the reason why every time we execute this one, we have to ensure that the previous container is no longer running or the server is terminated. Okay, so we are mapping the 7080 to port this one, then and we are giving the name as this one, then we are specifying the path, the deployment, the artifact to be deployed. We are mapping it to this particular file, which is sample-example.war, and this is the image that we are going to use. Okay, so now I'll just copy this. Okay, now I'm going to execute this. Now if you do docker ps, you can see this my Tomcat server is running, which is my-tcc2. And if you notice, like I have mapped this particular port. So if I browse this one, then I'll be able to browse that package. So in order to browse the artifact, you have to give the name for that artifact also. Here we have specified as sample-example. That is the reason why we are using this particular path. Okay, so here if I browse this one, you will see that hello world that is being that was there in that index.jsp file being served here. Okay, so now in order to show you, like what I'll do is, inside that index.java, what I'll do is I'm going to edit the content. Okay, so I'm going to add something. So added this line as edit. Okay, so I have edited my index.jsp file. Next thing what I have to do is, so now after editing the file, you have to do the whole process again. First you have to do what is the thing that you have to do? You have to build the package, build the artifact. So now we have to execute that again. Okay, so now it will be built again. Then after that, you have to ensure that the particular container is no longer running, the Tomcat container is no longer running, and after that you have to deploy the container, deploy the artifact once again. Okay, so now this is complete, and if I do refresh, you can see the deployment is successfully complete and the new line is coming. So every time there is a change in this one, you will have to do this manually. If you are doing this manually, you will have to do, like every time this one you have to execute all these steps side by side. Like since these commands are predefined, you don't have to edit anything. You can easily automate this process, right? So that is where that is where Jenkins will come into play. Okay. Now what we are going to do is we are going to automate this with the help of Jenkins. Okay, so now what you are going to do is, inside our Jenkins, so this is our Jenkins. What I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new job. Okay, so here I'll be creating a new job, say like build job new A. Okay, so I'm just creating a new job. I'm using freestyle project, and I'm just click OK, and I'll just quit the execution, and directly in this build section I'll directly execute my shell command. So now what you are going to do is you are going to execute the same commands that we have executed earlier inside our uh, inside our inside our Jenkins job. Okay, now Pravanshu is asking, can we give space in a new job name? Pravanshu, actually, it is possible for you to give space, but the convention, we'll see on slide, but the convention says that you shouldn't use that one. But it is possible, it will work, but the general convention is not to use spaces. Okay, so now this is the command that we'll be executing inside that particular container. So here we'll be specifying mapping the .m2 folder. Then we are here, see, we are specifying the whole path instead of $pwd, because we are executing this inside your Jenkins container or inside as your Jenkins job. We are specifying the whole path of our particular Java application, and we are executing the command to be executed, and this is the image that is being used. So since it is using the same host, it will use the local host as the local machine. So this is the command it will be executed for this build job. Okay, so I'll save this job. Okay, so now I have a new job which is build job new A. Now what is the next job? Next job is to create a new Jenkins container, right? Sorry, to create a new job for creating the deployment or automating the deployment. So before that, what I'll do is I'll show this particular job in action. Okay, so now let's edit the index file once again. So here I'll add, say, S3. So this line is added to show the build job. Okay, so now I edited my index.jsp file. Okay, so now what I have to do is I have to execute this build, like to rebuild, to create the new build or new artifact. I just need to execute this one. So before that, let me create the deploy job also, so that I can show you both. Okay, so this is the command that we are going to create or execute to show you, or for the deployment job. This is the command that you are executing. Like, see, we'll be using the same name, which is mytcc2, and we'll be specifying the whole path of the war file, and this is the same command that we use. Only thing is, here you have to specify, like, since we are using the same name, and if there is a container with that particular name, then it won't work, right? So what you have to do is you have to first ensure that the particular container is not there, and if it is there, then remove that container. So now I'll explain this particular line. Okay, now if you do this particular thing, you can see that particular container is running, or particular container is already created. That container with that particular name is already there. Okay, so now without doing anything, like without removing that container, if I execute this command, what will I get? I'll get an error, right? Like, see, you have to remove that container, like the container name is already in use, you have to remove that container. So if that is the case, then the same error comes in Jenkins execution, then Jenkins will also give error, the build will fail. So in order to avoid that, what you have to do is you have to remove the container. But if you remove that container, like, I'll remove the container like this. Now what I'll do is, if the container is already removed, then if I execute the same command once again, then also you will get an error, like no such container to delete. So if this also happens, then Jenkins job will fail. So in order to avoid that, what I'm going to use is I am going to execute this one. So what it will do is, what it will do is, it will first check this particular command, and it will output, it will give the output, it will check the output of that, but this particular command, and if the output is there, that means the TCC, this particular container with this name is already there, and it will be removed. Okay, and if it is not there, if the output is empty, then it will say that no container to remove. Okay, so what I'll do is, in order to explain you the difference, show you the difference, what I'll do is I'll do something like this. So echo container is running. Okay, so now in this case, in this particular scenario, if I execute this one, you will see that no container is container to remove, because I have already removed that container. But if the container was already running, then it would give this particular output. So this is like, if this is true, if this particular condition is true, then display execute this command, otherwise execute this one. So since this is not true, this is false, because that the name container with that name is not there, it is showing the else condition. Okay, so this is just one thing you can always use for your containers when you are using Jenkins. Okay, so now I am going to create a new job. So here deploy new job A. Sorry, deploy job new A. I'll give. So I'll use Freestyle project and click OK. And inside this build step execute shell, I'll add these two commands. Like first is to inspect whether the particular container with that name is there. If it is there, then remove that. If it is not there, then don't do anything. And after that, it will be creating a new Tomcat server container and deploying your application, deploying the artifact. Okay. Now, what we have done is we have converted our individual commands into jobs. Okay. So now what you can do is you can click this particular job to create a new build. So I just click this option, and you'll see like in the this build queue, I'll go to this Jenkins, and here sorry, if I go to this job, I'll build once again so that I can see show you the output here. So here, see, build history. It is executing that particular job. And if you go to this console output, you can see the output. See, it is executing the thing, and it is now building the Java project, and it is successful. Okay, so now if you go back to the project, you can see that build is successful. If it is green, that means it is success. See, the output is success. Okay, so now build is complete. Next thing is to execute the deployment job, right? So see here, it is success. This has not been executed. That is why it is not blue like this. Okay, so now I'm going to execute this deploy job. Okay, so this has started, and if you go to this console output, you can see that it is successfully done. And now if I go to this particular command and execute this one, you can see our new line being added. So now what we have done is we have, instead of executing those commands manually, what we have done is we have created jobs, Jenkins jobs, to create those things or execute those things. Okay, but still this is not automation. Still I had to execute the build commands. Like after creating the build, I had to deploy. In order to deploy, I had to execute this job once again, like manually, right? So there also you can automate. So we'll see how to do that, how to pipeline this one. Okay, so for that, and first let me copy this job name. Okay, so now for that, what you have to do is you have to go to this particular job, which is our build job. Now what you are going to do is we are going to pipeline the deploy task on build task execution. Like if the build task is successful, then it should automatically trigger the deployment task. That is our aim here. So this will automate the whole process, right? So in order to edit a project, what you have to do is you have to go to the project and click configure. Okay, and you will get the same page. Okay, so here what I'll do is, here you can see something called post build action. So here what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a new post build action. So here what I'll do is I am going to build other project, like I'm going to execute other Jenkins jobs. So I'll choose this option, which is build other project, and here I'll be giving the project name, which is deploy job new A. See this one? So you have to specify the name that you have mentioned. Like you can give comma separated list, like you can give multiple jobs to be executed, that also you can specify, but since we only have one job, we'll be using this particular job. And here these are the options that you have, like you can specify whether this particular build should be triggered, this particular project should be triggered only if this build is stable, or even if it is unstable, you can execute, you have to trigger this, or even if the build fails, you have to trigger this, or you can specify, like if you want to send some error message to the developer if the build fails, then you can select this option and create a new job to build the sorry, to act as the post build action and all. So now here we are going to use that particular job as the job to be triggered when once this particular build is stable or successfully completed. Okay, so now I have saved this one. Okay, so in order to show you the difference, what I'm going to do is I'm going back here and I'm editing the index.jsp once again. So here what I'm going to do is I'm going to add one more line. Okay, so added this line to show build pipeline automation. Okay, so now I edited my index.jsp file. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going back here. Okay, and I'm going to this particular job and I'm going to build this job. Okay, I'm only going to build this particular job, which is my build job. Okay, so now this build job is in progress. You can go to console output and you can see that build job is in progress now. So it is now building my artifact. So build artifact is complete, and see now there is one more line here saying that it is triggering a new build of deploy job new A. Okay, so you can click here to go to that job. So now I am within job, and here you can see another execution of that particular job. And if you go to this one, you can see that it is automatically deployed. Now if I refresh this page, you will see the new line added. So now what you have done is we have automated the process, right? Like earlier what we have done is we have to execute different each and every commands individually, and like we had to wait for the build to complete, then execute the deploy command and all those things, right? Now what you have done is we have automated that process with the help of Jenkins. So we have automated the whole process now. So as soon as the build job is started, your job is done, because if the build job is successfully completed, then Jenkins will take care of executing the deployment. Now you don't have to, like, human intervention for deployment is avoided now in this particular scenario. Is this clear? Is this automation, pipeline automation, is it clear to all of you? Any doubt in this one? Anyone? Is this process clear? So now these jobs can be executed individually, or like deploy job new A, it can be executed individually also. But since we have linked this build job new A with this deploy job new A, what it will do is after the successful execution of build job new A, it will automatically trigger this deploy job. Okay. Now, Virendra is asking how to perform this task in multiple servers. Virendra, now when you are deploying your applications, you'll be using your configuration management tool for those deployments and all, right? So those commands like Jenkins, you can install Chef, Puppet, or those plugins you'll be able to install, and then once you install that plugin, you'll be able to execute those commands. So that is one way of doing it. Otherwise, if you are doing it manually at the moment, then what you can do is you can execute the same command. You can create a new job with the same command that you are using with the host name and all, and you'll be able to execute that command as such. So based on your scenario, based on how you want to implement, you can do anything. Like even you'll be able to link your configuration management tool with Jenkins for automation. Okay, so this is very powerful. So I'm just showing you an example. I'm just showing you an overview for how to use this and how you can automate the job and all. Okay. So Prashant is asking, can this job be time specific? After that time execute? Yes, Prashant. Actually, see, when you go to this build job, and if you click this configure section, you'll see something called schedule. See, inside this build triggers, you'll see something called see this build periodically. So here you'll be able to specify like every minute if you want to build, or every 5 minutes you want to build. Like that, you'll be able to specify the comments here. Like you'll be able to specify the schedule here, your schedule, what you want to do here. Okay. Now I want to show you one more thing. Like in this particular deploy job, I told you, right? Like you can directly configure here also, right? See, I told you, like in this one, if you are not specifying, if you are not using this particular command, then what will happen? I told you the error will come, right? So I'll show you how that error will happen. Okay. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove this thing. Okay. So I'm going to remove this. I'm just going to add this particular remove. Okay. Okay. So I'm only adding this section. Prashant is asking one-time execution. Yes, Prashant. You'll be able to specify one-time execution also. Like you'll be able to schedule. But normally you'll be scheduling. If you are using scheduling, then you'll be scheduling like multiple times. But you can do for one time also. That will be based on the command that like in that you'll have to specify like uh, hours, minutes, seconds, like that. There is a format. You can search the net and get that format, but there is a certain format, and if you specify in that format, you can specify whether it should be it should be triggered multiple times or one time. It is up to you. Okay. So now I want to give you why I am using this particular command, like why I am using this particular conditional check. Okay, so now let's consider the case like I have only added this remove because we should remove this before creating, otherwise you will get error, that you know, right? So what I'm doing is I'm just adding this section and I'm saving that. Okay, now in my local machine I'm going to remove that particular container. Okay, so now I have removed that container. So now that container is no longer running, and I'm going to build this deploy job now. Okay, so now if I build this job, see the build will start now. So build has started and it is giving, see, red means it is giving error. See, failure, it is giving the response, error response from daemon, no such container my tcc2. So now this job has failed. That is the reason why we are using this command. So this command will ensure that this command is executed, like docker remove command is executed only if that particular container with that name is there in your list of docker containers. Okay, so now one more thing, that is the reason why we use that particular command. Now one more thing that I want to show you, see this one. You will see the last build output, last execution output here, like see build job last is success, but here this deploy job, the last execution is a failure, and it just failed. And see this image also, this shows the build stability. Like if there is no build failure, then like in the recent history, then it will show a sun. Then if there is a 1 out of 3, like based on the intensity, it will increase. Now it is showing some clouds covering the sun, right? So it will show you, it will show you a graphical representation of like how many build is, how stable is the build, like how many failures in how many runs and how many warnings. All those things you will be able to see from this particular dashboard as well. Now Reza is asking, is there any way to recover deleted project? Reza, there is only one way to recover that one, for that is to copy this. Like now, if you go to say ls Jenkins home slash jobs, you can see the jobs that you created, right? So now if you copy, if you have a backup of this particular Jenkins home, and if you use this particular Jenkins home to create a new Jenkins container, then you will have these jobs there. So only thing is you will have like, only way of backing up is to duplicate or copy this particular folder into some other location so that you have your own backup. Otherwise, there won't be any way for you to recover the deleted project. Okay, Ajinkya is asking, my TCC2 should be replaced by container name during execution in shell script. Yes, Ajinkya. Now, since my container name, I am using my Jenkins to see here. This is my TCC2 is the name I am going to use for my Tomcat server, right? So that is the reason why I am using that particular name, that container, because I don't want to create unwanted like n number of Tomcat containers if we are using this. Jenkins, because every time if you are not specifying this minus minus name, every time you execute this, it will create a new Tomcat server. So that is of no use, right? Instead of having n number of Tomcat containers cached in my system, what I'm doing is I'm having only one container with this particular name. Okay, this is clear, Ajinkya? Okay. So now this one we saw, then creating, we saw how to do this, then we saw Tomcat. Now we are going to see the best practices in Jenkins. Okay, so first is always secure Jenkins. So as I mentioned, always secure your Jenkins installation by using admin user. Like you can create your admin user, and then when you create new users also, you should use metrics based security to specify, like you have to manually, as an admin, you have to ensure that only users with privilege can do something. So using metrics based security, you will be able to ensure that. Then in larger systems, don't build on the master. That is where master slave architecture will come into play. If it is a larger system, then if you are using your master to execute the jobs, then it will take a lot of time for the master to do that, and during that time your UI, you won't be able to do anything else. So in that case, in large systems, you have to use the master slave architecture of Jenkins. Okay. Another thing is to always build from source control, means clean builds. Like if you are building from, say, the folder or files that are already there in the server, then it may not be the up-to-date version, because the developers will be pushing the code to the code version control system, right, like the source control system. So that will have the latest code. So whenever you do add a build job, the first command should always be to pull the latest code from the source control system. That should always be the case. Okay, that is called clean build. Otherwise, your changes won't be visible. Now, the most reliable builds will be clean builds, which are built fully from source code control, because that will be the most reliable builds. Then connect issue management or help desk system with Jenkins. Like you'll be able to connect your issue management system like Jira or the error management system. You'll be able to link with Jenkins, and you can always do that, so that whenever there is an error in the job, it will be automatically added to your uh, issue management system. Then integrate tightly with your issue tracking system like Jira or Bugzilla to reduce the need for maintaining a change log. Like otherwise, you should have a log where you'll mention, okay, at this time this thing failed, and these are the developers who should know this, and all those things. So if you have a issue tracking system, then that can be automatically linked with Jenkins, and the report will already be there. Then another thing is backup Jenkins home regularly. So this is very important, because whenever you are on production, if you by mistake, if you delete your job, some like Ajay mentioned, like if you delete your job by accident, then if you have a backup of the Jenkins home, you will be able to use that one. So please do the backup of Jenkins home regularly, so that you can say have the same server anywhere, anytime. Okay. Next is time limit project names to a same, like alphanumeric character set. Like as I mentioned, like the naming can be anything, but you should try to use alphanumeric character set as far as possible. Okay. Then next is always configure your job to generate trend reports and automated testing when running a Java build. Like when you are building the application, you have to execute the test. You have to provision such a way that the test also should be executed. So all those things, like since you can execute shell command directly, you can automate all of this. You can do almost anything that you can do as a command line via your Jenkins job. Okay. Now set up Jenkins on the partition that is the most free space, because some jobs may take a lot of space, like building also sometimes, like for large application it will take a lot of space. So ensure that you set up Jenkins on the partition that has the most free space, and that will also increase the speed of the Jenkins server and job execution. Then archive unused jobs before removing them. Like I think I mentioned, if you remove the job, then there is no way to get it back. So what you have to do is you have to go to the folder, archive that particular job, and then delete it, so that even if by mistake, like if you want that job back, then at least you will have your archive from to restore. Okay, now set up a different job or project for each maintenance or development branch you create. Like that, you will be having different environments, like testing environment, or staging, or production. There will be different environments. So you should have different jobs for different environments, or different pipelines for different environments. You shouldn't mix jobs between environments, because then it will be really crazy. It will get real crazy, and finally you won't be able to manage it. So as far as possible, keep those pipelines separate, keep those jobs separate from each other. Okay, now prevent resource collisions in jobs that are running in parallel. Like if you are executing two jobs at the same time, then ensure that those jobs are not using the same resource. Okay, if that is the case, then resource clogging will happen, and at least one job will fail. Now Register is asking, after installing the plugin, they have asked for restart or else without restart. If you opt for restart, what it will, what will restart exactly? Register is asking, after installing the plugin, they have asked for restart or else without restart. If you opt for restart, what it will restart exactly? Okay, actually, if you opt for restart, it won't do anything. Like it will ensure that this particular plugin installation will come into play only after you restart your Jenkins server. Okay, so it will ensure that the current session won't have that particular plugin installed. It will ensure that you have to only that plugin will come into play only after restarting your Jenkins server. Okay. Now, avoid scheduling all jobs to start at the same time. This is similar to that. Like since there are jobs which can use the same resource, or there can be jobs which are high resource intensive. You should avoid scheduling all jobs at the same time, because otherwise it will add lot of load to the node or the master Jenkins server which is executing that particular job or executing all those jobs. Reza is asking, restart need to be done from CLI or else GUI will get restart. Reza, if you want to restart your Jenkins server, then you should restart using CLI. Like I mentioned, like pause. You can pause your Docker container and then restart start also. That also is will be considered as restart. But otherwise, if you only want to just log out and log in, then you can always use logout in from the GUI. But if you want to restart the Jenkins server, then you'll have to do it via the CLI. Okay. Now set up email notification mapping to all developers in project, so that everyone on the team has his pulse on the project consent. Like you should add email notification, so that when there is an error, the developers will be automatically notified. Then take steps to ensure failures are reported as soon as possible. This is similar to that one. Then write jobs for your maintenance tasks, such as cleanup operations, to avoid full disposal. Like now, every time a build is created, it will create files, a lot of files corresponding to those builds which you may not need. So in those cases, you should always execute. You should always have jobs which will do the cleanup process to free up the disk, so that it will remove those unwanted files and unwanted things that are created from the build phase. Then tag, label, or baseline the code base after successful build. So each and every time the build is successful, you should tag it in the source control system, so that if someone else check the code, they'll know that okay, this is the version, or this is the commit which has got the successful build at the moment, which is the live version. So those tagging also should be done. Okay. Now Pramod is asking, please tell us Git configuration. Okay, Pramod, I won't be showing you full, but I'll show you just an outline of how to do that. Okay, so now if you go to this job, if you configure that job under the source control management, you can specify, like, since when you install that recommended plugins by Jenkins, it will already install Git and Subversion plugins. So what you can do is you can click this Git, and here you can specify the repository URL. If it is a public repository, then it's fine. Otherwise, you have to specify the credentials, like key and all. You will have to specify, and you have to specify the branch which you want to use. Okay, so now After that, after you give that URL name, git URL name, what you have to do is you have to add behavior. So here what you have to do is like clean before checkout, like checkout to a subdirectory. It will be checking out that particular git repository to a subdirectory. Then poll, like you will be automatically polled, like you will be able to poll. Like now if you once you specify this one, what it will ensure that okay, this is the source, this is the source of this particular job. And after that, what you can do is see here same name, then see here it will automatically trigger this build on this particular clone. Like if a particular like if it has the privilege to monitor the uh, monitor like one more thing, like see when you specify this git, it is only for source control management, right? So in order to automate that process, what you have to do is you have to add something called git hooks inside your git repo, so that whenever that is executed you can trigger this. So now in this build trigger, what you have to do is you have to select this git hook trigger for git SCM polling, so that whenever there is a push or commit into this particular repository, this particular build is automatically triggered. So at that time, like if you specify like checkout to a subdirectory, then you can specify the local directory for the repo, like you can say like local repo directory. And what it will do is it will clone that particular git repo, or it will pull that particular git repo in this particular machine, and that thing will be used as trigger for that will be used as source for this particular build. So there are a lot of things that you have to do, but please understand that first you understand how Jenkins works, and then only you try out this git automation. Okay, so Pramod, what you can do is you can try out your uh, you can try out your git automation, and if you're facing any difficulty after going through this preliminary thing, if you're facing any difficulty with your git integration, you can email me and I'll get back to you. Okay. Okay, good. So now Virendra is asking, can you provide some overview on master slave architecture? Okay, so let me see. Now, if you go to this manage Jenkins, and here you will see something called manage node section. Okay, so here you can see there is only one node, but if you are having new node, if you are having multiple nodes, then what you have to do is you have to add new node. Like you have to click new node, and you can add your new node, and all those things you will be able to add here. So once you have, sorry, so once you add your nodes, it will be coming here. Okay, so after this you'll be able to specify like which node to execute which job and all. Okay, so the main use of having master slave architecture, I'll show you once again. Where is that? Okay, see, main job is you see here now in this case, in this particular scenario, we only have this master node, right, which is the Jenkins master. So all the jobs that you specify now will be executed by this master. Okay, now let's say you have one job which will take say 15 minutes to execute, or it will take say it will take say 4 GB RAM to create that build or execute that build. Okay, so if you are executing that particular job in your master node, then what will happen is while that execution is happening, all the resources that are allocated for the master will be used for that particular job. So for this particular UI, for you to manage the UI or for you to manage the jobs and all, there won't be any memory available. So for you to use your GUI, it will be stuck. You will be stuck. So only after completion of that job, you will be getting or you will be able to manage your Jenkins only after execution of that job. Till then, all the resource will be allocated for that particular job execution. So now when you have a master slave architecture, then you will have multiple nodes. So what you can do is using this master node, you can specify like when you go to this job here, you can specify like which node. You can specify the node in which you want to execute, like build and all. You will be able to specify the nodes. I'm not showing that, but you will be able to specify the node in which that job to be executed and all. So what you can do is that resource intensive job, you can specify that, okay, node A will do that job, or the node J is the one who should execute that job, so that the resources will be available. The resource of the master node will be available for you to manage those jobs, while the actual job execution will be handled by the nodes. That is the use of having master slave architecture. This is clear, Virendra? Okay. So Virendra is asking, master and slave will have same package. Virendra, actually, see, master and slave. Master is used to trigger the build. The actual execution will happen within the slave. So whatever command that you execute in the job, it will be executed within that slave. If it is like your shell script, if you are adding a shell script to create a new file, then the new file will be created within the node. It will not be created inside the master. It will be only created inside the slave, because master is only triggering the job. The actual execution is happening within the slave in that particular case. Is it clear, Virendra? Okay. So now that's the evidence. So as homework, please try out the commands that I executed. You can try out with creating new users. Then you can try out with giving privileges or giving access to user. All those things you will be able to try out. And first thing you have to do is you have to try out the sample Java deployment application and how to do the pipelining automation. So you have to ensure that, okay, this particular flow is complete. So once you understand this flow, then you will be able to change the command and to apply this to any other application. So it is as simple as that. So the main focus that you should do is to ensure that you know the flow that I have executed and you try out these commands. Okay, and after trying out, if there is any issue or any error that you are facing, please email me and I'll get back to you. Okay, so any doubt in the topics that we covered today? Anyone? Reza is asking, is the email made? Send an email with doubts. Yes, Reza, I'll check and get back to you. Okay, so is there any other doubt? Okay, so it looks like there are no other doubts. So please try out this one, and if you have any doubt, you can always email me. Okay, so that's it, everyone, for today. Yes, Mahesh is asking, could you please upload today's demo file? Yes, Mahesh, I'll be uploading all the files. Okay, so that's it, everyone. So have a nice day, and we'll see tomorrow. Okay, bye.